5 things you've got to know about the Denver market before buying or selling. Hey everybody, it's Alyson Wahl with Live South Denver, your real estate strategist and realtor for the South Denver area. Every market is different, right? So what are 5 things that can help you be more strategic and win in this market when buying or selling? Let's jump right in. Number 1, you can't get new construction just anywhere across the Denver metro area. Look at this map. There are about 115 new construction communities labeled from this site, and they have nearly everything. And you can already see how much more you've got down in the South Denver area. We have almost 60% of all the new construction options here in South Denver. But as you look at it, you kind of go, wow, there's not very much out to the west. There's a little bit to the north, a fair amount to the east. Almost 60% or 65 communities and collections down here in South Denver. Now I can tell you there are even some communities that aren't shown on this map. So if you want the inside scoop on those, please reach out. I'm always happy to share. Now, sellers, why does this matter to you? Because it seems like this is all for the buyers, right? They care where all the new build communities are. Well, if you're going to be a buyer, sure, that's helpful. But it matters to you because if you live in an area with a lot of new construction, that is your competition. Even if they're not just right down the road. If you live in Castle Rock, where there is a lot of new construction, that is your competition. It matters how your home stacks up to that. If you live on the west side of town where there's very little, then no, you're not competing against new construction for the most part. It's helpful to know what is your competition. Who are you competing against? 2, you have got to know that there is higher demand in some parts of town than others. That makes sense, right? Wherever you're coming from, that's probably true too. But where is that? So let's pop up this map. This is recent data. So we're looking at November. This is a slower time of year and in a softer market. And it is MLS data. This does not take into account those builders we were just looking at. The homes in red have the most resale hype, if you will. That means that homes generally inside the 470 corridor, along the 225 run, and to the west are the ones that are the most popular. They have the most resale hype. They are the most hot. They are highly coveted. That is until you get into the city core, and then it cools down again. So when you're outside the 470 realm, except to the west, and when you're inside the city core, things are a little softer. While this map and the colors and what's hot and what's not changes and fluctuates over time, and my gosh, almost the entire map of Denver was red during the pandemic, this is kind of what we see overall with the Denver market over time. We see that the west is hot. We see that everything that's along the interstate and closer to the core is generally hotter. When you get into Denver, we do see that there is a little bit less demand. There are fewer single family homes. It's a lot of attached or condo type dwelling. So there has been less demand for city living as of late. So while the numbers or the colors may shift, the trend and the relativity to somewhere else tends to stay the same. So buyers, for you, this is really important because if you're going to have a fast turnaround, if you're coming here for 3 years, but you still find it worth buying, so considering where you want to buy, where you want to invest, how fast you need ROI and what it has to deliver back to you, this is one tool that's going to be helpful. If you're coming here for lifestyle and this is a long-term investment, over the long haul, just like a stock, your home is going to return value and you're in it for a more emotional connection on top of your financial investment. Sellers, you're already in your home. This is informational. It's important to know. We know who's looking at your home and what they think of where you live. It's just one more helpful tool as you come into marketing your home to sell. What do people think about where you live and how do you need to price yourself, market yourself to be competitive? Number 3, homeownership ratios across the metro area vary drastically. What you'll see on this map is that the South Denver area tends to be an area with very high home ownership ratios. The numbers that are popping up show the ratio of home ownership. So if you see a 70, that means we're 70% home ownership in that area. If you see a 58, that's 58% home ownership ratio in that area. If you want to be building a real estate portfolio, if you want to come in and buy a house and live there for a year or two and then turn that around to be a rental and go buy another home, whether it's here or somewhere else, you actually might be aiming for an area with a lower home ownership ratio. Why? Because it's probable you're going to be getting a property that is at a lower price point, that's going to be easier to rent. We know it's a high rental area. So you may look at this differently than someone that's coming here to build a long-term lifestyle with an orientation toward schools, an orientation toward parks, with a different mindset, where their look is how high of a home ownership rate can I get? Number 4, Denver is expensive and inexpensive. We get a lot of folks moving here from California, Arizona, Texas, the DC area, and actually a lot of folks who come back to the States from being on contract or assignment from overseas, and Denver is kind of their ideal place. If they're getting to pick, a lot of them want to end up here. Comparatively, Denver runs the gamut on how expensive or inexpensive we feel to all of those locations. Right now, our average home price is running about $560,000 for the Denver area. With a lot of our folks coming from tech hubs like San Francisco and San Jose, their average home price is 1.2 to 1.3 million. It feels like a steal of a deal to come here to Denver. With a lot of them coming to an area like Broomfield, Boulder, Superior, or South Denver, they're coming here and getting usually a new construction dream home, something with mountain views. They're swapping pretty close typically to the home they sold for out there. They might have sold for 1.5, 1.4, maybe it's right at the 1.2, 1.3, maybe they went a little higher, and they're putting almost all of that money into the house here and getting close to everything they wanted. I will say Californians are often surprised thinking they're going to get a steal of a deal in Denver, but they come here and start to rack up all the things they wish they could have gotten in California and can get here, and it does cost a pretty penny. The average price of a home in Phoenix is running around $420,000, but the average price in Scottsdale is around $800,000. So even in a market that is as large as Maricopa County, we have such a wide diversity. And Denver and Maricopa County swap people quite a bit, including those who have 2 homes. So even for swapping between those 2 markets, Denver can be expensive or Denver can be a deal. For both Arizona and our Texas transplants, a lot of that moving here to the Denver market has to do with weather. They want a year-round lifestyle. They want 4 seasons. If there are young kids involved, a family, it has to do with a place where we can get the kids outside and playing more all year round. The heat, the intensity of the warmer months in those southern states keeps a lot of families inside, especially with younger kids, and they don't like it. They want to be out more often, more hours of the day, and so here we come to Denver. What about those DC transplants? Well, with those home prices over there being in the low 1 million price point, Denver feels like a steal, and they get a great lifestyle to boot. Now, home price isn't the only thing to factor in here. We have state income tax, property tax, sales tax, and not every state has all of those. However, we tend to fall middle of the road for tax burden here in Colorado. Home insurance and auto insurance do tend to be more expensive. We fall top of the ladder rung. We're like one of the top 5 most expensive states for those. That can often be a sticker shock for many families. When it comes to the rest of the things like gas, groceries, utility bills, that sort of thing, we really don't tend to blow people away. Sometimes they say we're cheaper than where they came from. Now, if you're coming here hoping for that mountain view, do know it's going to cost you. I talk about that all the time, but it is possible to get a home in the 500s or 600s here, even in South Denver. Yes, 600's doable and it could look cute. 500's, you're probably putting some work in. If you're wanting to get a deal, a home that's not a budget buster, tip number 5 is for you, and that is to go with the flow. You need to move with the seasons here, and you can check out this video to see more about that. But flexing with the seasonality of our market is sure to get you a home that is lower priced than if you have a very tight window of time. We are absolutely fair weather sellers here. We are known to delay our launch of spring inventory if the winter is bad. And we're fair weather fans because if the Broncos make it to the playoffs, we'll also delay some inventory. And if they don't make it to the playoffs and the winter's not bad, you'll certainly see us launching our spring inventory earlier in the year. Sellers, if you are not longtime Coloradans or you have not sold a home here before and didn't know that, that is priceless advice for you. Because if the agent you're working with doesn't know that and you get delayed into the market, you could be behind on capturing early buyers. Knowing when to launch, knowing how to count backwards from when the peak season of the market is, and prepping your home and getting things aligned just right to capture the top point of the market for the most money for you is imperative. All right, I said 5 tips. I have a bonus. Tip number 6. This is really helpful to you buyers, but sellers, if you haven't seen this, you're gonna love it. Pricing for the Denver market tends to run clockwise from least expensive to most expensive, but it doesn't start at high noon. It starts around the 11 o'clock mark. You will find the least expensive homes based on what you can see here on this map from 11 o'clock to around 5 o'clock. And then we have a stark change from around 5 o'clock back to the 11 o'clock mark. Now, in one of the other maps we looked at, red was hot, high demand. This one, red is not high prices, red is low prices. Again, because they're anticipating high demand there. So blue is higher prices, i.e. low demand. That means when you look at the west side of the map, you see blue dots. When you look south, you see blue dots. When you see that blob of blue in the middle, we are looking at Greenwood Village, Cherry Hills Village. That large red bubble that's over I-225 that is on the east side of the map, that is Aurora. If you're looking for a home that tends to run $650 and above, you know which part of town to look in. The blue dots, as I mentioned, Cherry Hills Village, Greenwood Village, the one to the south, that is Castle Pines Village, and the one to the west, that is Golden. Now, sellers, how does this also help you? If you are here in South Denver, you have your home on the market, you have a bunch of showings in the first weekend, and then you get a bit of feedback 2 days in from someone who saw it and says, we went with a home that cost much less and was more move-in ready or updated. And your agent follows up with that agent and says, well, where was that home? And they say it was up north. Well, look at this map. Of course it was cheaper. It was up north. So it might take some pressure off of you having to manipulate your price so quickly or feel any nerves. You might be able to hang in a few more days on the market before you have to adjust. If the house was down the street or in the same area of town, well, maybe you might need to think about some things. Here's that video on the seasonality of the Denver market. And if you want to chat about how to maximize your investment here in Denver, please reach out. You know, I always love to chat. And I will see y'all next week.